It is the day before opening day, Peter Apple. It is April 6th. I was going to say eve, but not quite yet because it's the morning when most of the people are listening to it. But we have opening day 24 hours away, maybe less for those listening. Peter, how jacked up are you right now?
I use this metaphor on not gambling advice. You know what it feels like? It's the morning. You're waking up, right? You smell the bacon. And we're in that 30-minute period of the shower and getting dressed before you go downstairs and you get to first bite into that glorious piece of bacon. And that's how I feel right now. I'm inches away from gorgeousness.
Well, we're going to be talking about a lot of gorgeousness right now on the Just Baseball Show. We've got a trade, another last-minute trade, Austin Meadows. We're going to talk about his deal over to Detroit. We're going to talk about Johnny Cueto, who I think was a little bit overlooked. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be peak Johnny Cueto, but that's an arm that helps the White Sox a little bit. It's interesting there. Better than Vince Velasquez, as we were just making fun of them for. And then, of course, the nutshell of this episode is the NL over-under win totals, which I'm very excited to do because American League for the previous episode was a blast. The Braves are still pegged at a 91.5 over-under for their win total.
Good spin zone.
Yeah. How about those? It's been a while since I've hosted, and I've been itching for these just segues into new conversations.
The only problem is when we do it, whenever we have a really good transition, like if Jack does or I do or you do, we always like, oh, great transition.
Nice transition.
Talk about the transition instead of actually using it.
Totally ruin the transition. Absolutely. Like, ooh, that was a good. And then the shitty transition, we're like, oh, let's not embarrass him. Like, let's just let that one go. It never fails. But 91.5 games, Peter. This is a good ass division, and we're going to talk about it because I mean, from top to bottom, we're going to go through all these teams. They still, from a baseball standpoint, they got better, I think. All right. Like, we could talk about all the moves they've made. You can go through some of the ones that really stand out. Obviously, getting Matt Olson. I think Matt Olson could easily be more productive and a higher F4 guy next season at first base. You can't really quantify that in the clubhouse. And I think losing Freddie Freeman definitely really, really hurts. But you've got guys like Austin Riley making the next step. You've got Ozzie Albies, all these players just hitting their prime. Acuna back after missing half the season. And I mean, they're pitching, man. It's still just about the same. Friend of the show, Tucker Davidson, could slide into that rotation and give them a nice boost in the back end. Huascar Noah was hurt all year. And then, they signed Kenley Jansen. I'm sure there's a few other pieces I'm missing. What really makes you feel strongly one way or another about this team, and what's your take on the over-under?
So I spoke about this on the AL episode, that what I like to do is I like to give them a win total, in my opinion, not look at any projections or anything, just what I think they're going to do next year. Then I look at the projections, then I look at the line to kind of gauge where I'm at compared to the line. And the problem is with the Braves, similar to when I talked about the Rangers, how I pegged them at 74, they were at 74.5. I pegged the Braves at 92 wins. And right now they're at 91.5.
Damn.
So again, I think Vegas has this line pretty squared away. Remember, this Braves team won the World Series, but in the regular season, they won 88 games. But for that regular season, they lost Acuna for, what was it, July, August, September.
They were 41-41 or something like that.
So half the season, basically. That's 82 games, 162 games, or around half the season without a Ronald Acuna Jr. Basically, half the season, they didn't have Ronald Acuna Jr., their best player and a potential MVP candidate. The only problem is Ronald Acuna Jr. will start the season on the IL. It's only going to be a 10-day thing. He should be totally fine. He's going to work his way back into DH, and then eventually he'll be back in the outfield. I have a slight over in the regular season, but this team is built for the playoffs. You talked about the rotation, you talked about the bullpen, and the offense, once it gets hot, they roll like nobody's business. It's a soft over. It's not an over I'm going to be betting on, but I am over. And I do have this team as the second best team in all of baseball besides the Dodgers, the second best team. Just because a win total, I'm not giving them 98 wins in the regular season, doesn't mean that I don't think that they're the second best team in baseball.
That very important point that you make there, Peter, because I see some people commenting like, oh, this team was 2 games away from the World Series. This team was so good in the playoffs last year. How could you take their under? It's because the regular season and the playoffs are different.
Totally.
We're not saying if we take, let's say we took Braves under hypothetically. Under could be 89 wins, make the playoffs, and I still think they could win the World Series.
They won 88 and won the World Series.
Exactly. So just because we are not taking their over on a 162-game marathon doesn't mean that we don't think they're built to win a World Series. I like the over, though, too. I'm not putting a penny on it because it's just too high.
They might win 91 games or 92. Like it might be right in the middle there.
It's going to come down to a meaningless October 3rd game where they rest everybody or something. And then you're going to be sweating it out. And it's going to be stupid. It's the same team relatively. These guys are pros at the end of the day. I know losing Freeman sucks, but I can promise you that the core of Albies, Riley, and Duvall now, who was there before and came back, Swanson, Darno, Freed, like these guys have been together. Ian Anderson, even like they've been together for a while now. I don't think that they're going to be just shaken by it. Like I think it was tough. They got through it, and now they're going to come around to it. It's not like Matt Olson is some clubhouse cancer or something like that. By all accounts, Matt Olson seems like an awesome guy, and I think he'll fit right in. And he's a local, so like it's going to be just fine for the Braves. Slide over, but I don't think either of us are confident. Any final thoughts before we move on to the Mets?
No final thoughts there. My only final thought is don't take this as we don't love the Braves. We think they're the second best team in the sport.
Yes. It's just this division is tough, and partly because Uncle Steve paid a lot of money, a lot of money this offseason. We've talked about it time and time again. I don't even think we need to go through all the moves they made. Everyone knows it. We've talked about it so many times. But the win total at 88.5, that was updated right after DeGrom's injury. What was it before? What was
90
it before? 90.5. So it is an opportunity if you are extremely bullish on the Mets to be able to go and bet on them here, because we've seen some pitchers come out and say stress reactions are not that big of a deal for pitchers. In this instance, maybe not, but this is like the fifth injury in 5 months of baseball for DeGrom. It's getting a little bit concerning. Scherzer's not a spring chicken either. And I mean, this team's really good, but it's a lot of new guys being pieced together here. And it's a tough league here and a tough division. How are we feeling?
My problem is, and I this is now the second time in a row, I promise this shouldn't happen for the rest of the picks, but I had the Mets at 89 wins. So where do I go from here? I would lean a smidge over, but you could also say under, and I would have no problem with that. I'll argue both sides for you. Over 89.5 wins. DeGrom stays healthy after he comes back from his injury, dominates. Max Scherzer puts up a Cy Young type season. Chris Bassett is the same Chris Bassett that we've expected. And then the depth pieces in Taijuan Walker and all those guys are good enough to get them through innings. Taijuan Walker can be great at times. I don't mean to disrespect Taijuan Walker, call him a back end guy and loop him in with the Tylor McGills, who's also not terrible, or the David Petersons. I don't mean to loop in Taijuan Walker and Tylor McGill with David Peterson is basically what I'm trying to say. They dominate the offense. Pete Alonso hits 50 home runs. Francisco Lindor bounces back. This team could realistically win 100 games in that scenario. If everything goes right, this is a 100-win team. But what also could happen is the 77 wins of last year. Lindor doesn't bounce back. Pete Alonso doesn't hit 50 home runs. Can still be great. Doesn't hit 50 home runs. DeGrom is hurt for most of the year. Scherzer doesn't look like the same guy. Still is great, but is not the same guy. Maybe Chris Bassett might go down with an injury. The bullpen never figures it out. So the margin of error for the New York Mets is of epic New York Met proportions.
If they were a prospect, I would say like they have a wide range of outcomes, right? Like if they were a prospect, I'd be like high risk, high upside. Like they're almost Jason Dominguez-esque, but they've obviously showed more because you have DeGrom and you have these guys. But like Scherzer at 38, which is what he's going to be by midseason. I mean, if that's the guy that's carrying your rotation, he's still Max freaking Scherzer, but it's a little bit scary. What is Cookie Carrasco going to look like? Is McNeil even going to bounce back? Is Mark Canha going to be healthy because he was a little bit shaky last year? There's a lot of questions around this team. I still really like them as constructed. And here's the thing is when we're looking at the Mets, Peter, if they get off to a bad start, like let's say it's a slow start, you really think they're going to mail it in? They might say, Steve Cohen might say, see you, Brett Beatty. And they might go trade for Frankie Montas immediately. Like they could do anything. But my biggest thing with the Mets is they won't let the season get away from them. And if things do go bad, I think they're going to make it happen. If they are on the edge, I think they're going to push the chips forward. So for that reason, I'm taking over. But I don't feel great about it either, to be honest.
Think about this. What do you think is more likely to happen for the New York Mets? Because if we're talking from a gambling perspective, you want to take the more likely scenario. And the more likely scenario, unfortunately, and don't kill me, Mets fans, is that you don't rise to the occasion and you become this elite team.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I really wanted to try to say, but I'm the Mets hater TM.
And I've been the Mets truther. So like I'm the guy. Come on now. I've been on the Mets. I still believe in the Mets. But if you make me put my hard-earned money on something, I'm going to be a little bit more honest.
Yeah.
And what have the Mets done since 1986 is they've been the New York Mets.
They lost to maybe.
You told me to gamble on their over, I will not be doing so. But that does not mean I don't believe in this team. I said it on Not Gambling Advice. This is the best team that they have had since 2015 when they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
So I believe in them, but not enough to put my money on it, which is a very interesting distinction.
Yeah. So are we taking under? Like I'm trying really hard to talk myself into the over, but
the gambling pick should be the under because you know the public's on the over. You know it's a New York market. You know it's always a bigger line. The smarter play is always the under there.
Because I haven't pegged personally 87, 88. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Because of the next team, Peter, I'm going to agree with you on the under because I'm going to make my Phillies case.
I don't even know if I'm fully on board.
What, for the Phillies?
That's why I want you to make the case to me because I'm so in between here. And my projection was lower than their win projection.
The Peter projection? The
Peter projection.
Okay. Yeah. So let me make my case real quick. Because I was teetering right on the edge and you pretty much sold me on the Mets not hitting the over. The Phillies are going to be, like I said before, a beer league softball team. And they leaned into that. But they leaned into that now with what I think could be one of the most electric offenses in baseball. Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Rhys Hoskins, Gene Segura, and then Bryson Stott, Didi Gregorius / Alec Boehm, and Matt Vierling, who was actually good last year. And then Mickey Moniak all of a sudden is swinging at the spring. Not going to hold my breath, but he was swinging at the spring. And then here's my case on the Phillies. So we know the offense is going to be incredible. I'm really excited about what Bryson Stott brings to them in terms of the defensive side of things too. And you know, I gave him out for Rookie of the Year. But I think their pitching, I think people are too hard on it. I think that their pitching is darn solid. Zach Wheeler, would you say it's fair to call him a top 10 starting pitcher in the game?
Absolutely fair.
Okay, thank you. Cool. Top 10 starting pitcher in the game in Zach Wheeler. Aaron Nola, we could spend a whole podcast on him and how far apart his expected stats and his FIP. Yes, we have. His FIP is versus ERA. You and I can agree on something. He will be better this year.
Agreed.
And better would mean a potentially very solid number 2, and we know he can be better than that.
Wait, will he be better? Like, will his ERA be a lot better? I don't know if his ERA will still be that much better.
I think he will give them a better chance to win ball games every 5th day than he did last year.
That's fair.
Right? Ranger Suarez. He's good as hell. Are we sold on Ranger Suarez?
I'm more sold than not sold. I liked what I saw last year.
1.36 ERA, 106 innings.
I bet on his second start because I watched his first start and I'm like, they're underdogs and it hit. And I was like, I like you for the rest of the time.
You know who he's a lot like, right? Like friend of the podcast, Nestor Cortez. They both are 91 mile an hour fastballs that are invisible and just you swing through them. Nasty changeup as well. I think Suarez is more than a fine 3. Where it gets interesting, Kyle Gibson, it was a tale of two halves. He was not good after the trade, but like, are you pissed with Kyle Gibson as your 4?
No.
Okay. So far you're on the same page as me.
Yeah.
And then your 5 is Zach Eflin, which Zach Eflin, again, as my 5, not really losing sleep over it. He was a 4.17 ERA guy, 3.68 FIP, doesn't walk anybody, pounds the strike zone. If that's your 5, like that rotation's fine. And we just mentioned they have one of the best lineups in baseball. Their defense is going to stink, but they have a great defensive catcher and they can rake. And they now have a more young, dynamic guy that they're sprinkling in here with Bryson Stott. They went out and got some guys for their bullpen as well. Corey Knebel, Juris Familia, Brad Hand can't hurt. Like 85 isn't that many games.
85.5 means you have to win 86 games. So here's why I'm going under. I pegged them at 83 games. And maybe, maybe we can talk about it more and maybe we can come to a conclusion on the over, because this Phillies team could win 88 to 90 games. This Phillies team could win 88 to 90 games. But you know what I see when I look at their roster, Arm?
Wow.
I see if Zach Wheeler goes down and he's already dealing with shoulder stuff, if he goes down, this team's screwed.
Yeah, they are in trouble.
You said their defense stinks. They could have the worst defense of all time. Of all time. And then they don't have a good bullpen. They didn't do enough. They did add, which when we talked about the episode, I did like it, but they didn't do enough to give me confidence in their bullpen. They will not win one-run games. They won't. They will not win one-run games. We talked about that with the Rangers. The Phillies are better than the Rangers, but the Rangers will not win one-run games. So the Phillies in a division with the Mets and the Braves, and the Marlins have great pitching. Yeah. So at least they're going to get a couple wins against the Phillies, because sometimes that offense isn't.
And for whatever reason, they own the Phillies. I have no idea why.
But what also I see with the Phillies is an offense that resembles those Yankee offenses that got me really pissed off, that they're so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And that I feel like when they're rolling, like the Phillies are going to go on a 10-game win streak this year. Kind of how you said the Rangers are going to go on a 12-game losing streak. Yeah. They're going to go on a 10-game win streak, but they're also going to have losing streaks. This is going to be a polarizing team all year. So that's why I would never bet on their over. I would never bet on their over. I wouldn't be shocked if they went over. Another team with a wide range of outcomes, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
But you couldn't pay me to bet. Well, you could pay me.
You could, because house is money.
But I would lean under. But it's not that this is a gambling sense, right? This is my gambling brain talking. Too much polarization for me to bet on an over. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I think, oh yeah, they'll be below 85 games. Like they could easily win 85. I haven't pegged at 83.
So I definitely understand the lineup point in terms of some of the swing and miss, though. Honestly, what really hit home with me the most from what you just said there was the rotation in terms of if Zach Wheeler, who has been an innings eater over the last couple of years, but has a long injury history and now has some shoulder issues. If Zach Wheeler gets hurt, who is stepping in? Who is going to be that guy that
Nola's great, but it's clear that Nola could have a 4.2 ERA and a 2.8 FIP, but those earned runs are going to add to the game, not his FIP. You know what I'm saying? Like we can still think he's a good pitcher, but the earned runs are still going to happen and they're still going to be on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why he had such the big discrepancy is also how bad that defense was, and
it's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's gotten worse. The only defensive upgrade they've really made is Bryson Stott, and that's about it. So,
and one more thing about Castellanos is he can have the same year that he had in Great American Ballpark.
Yes. You had
Is he going to have the same season there as he will in Citizens Bank? I would say that he would not.
No, I think he'll hit well.
I think he'll hit well too.
It's still a favorable place to hit, but I don't think he does exactly what he did. Hoskins missed a lot of time last year. He comes back, but yeah, the rotation is like, I like it with those 5. I think it's good, but who's 6? that is the scary part. At least the Mets have some better contingency plans. I could be swayed on the under if you feel more. It seems like you feel more strongly on the under for this one than the other two.
It's not saying that I feel like strongly towards the under. It's just there's no way I'm betting the over. If that makes sense.
What's our podcast pick though?
I would say under.
Okay. Yeah, and unless they trade Alec Boehm and somebody else for another arm, yeah.
That's going to be polarizing on the Instagram. People are not going to like that.
Yeah, of course they're.
This is a Dave Dombrowski team podcast and can understand. For example, also salary cap. How are they doing on salary cap? They're pretty up there.
Yeah, they don't have
go over the luxury tax to add at the deadline. I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty tight on money. This is a Dave Dombrowski team.
He'll do anything. He doesn't care.
Yeah, but he's kind of did his everything. It's like they're limited. I'm okay with the under because the next team, I told you I wanted to abstain from the Miami Marlins and my over under. I'm obviously not going to abstain on the podcast where we talk about baseball from the team that I know the most about. But I also understand that I cannot give predictions on this team because I always assume that every year I assume the Marlins are not going to give Lewis Brinson, Isan Diaz, Sandy Leone, and Joe Panic 1,200 plate appearances. And somehow by the end of the year, those guys get those plate appearances and they combine for a -4 FWAR and it's a disaster. And even the rotation, right? Like the rotation was supposed to be a strength last year. They had they had David Hess making starts. They had some disaster guys making starts. Ross Detweiler, I was going to say Sean Dewitt. Ross Detweiler was making starts for the Marlins last year. Like this is a different team, but I always think that's going to be the case. And then they're not. And they end up, someone gets hurt. And instead of doing something about it, they just go and sign Sandy Leone and throw him in there or something like that. That's what I'm worried about. But from a pure, just like team standpoint, this is the best Marlins team, in my opinion, since they traded everybody. And I know that's not saying a lot because they've had some really atrocious teams through the years since the Stanton and Christian Yelich and Ozuna teams. But I mean, this team is solid. And I think that this is another tough one to take under. I know Colby took under on not gambling advice. I don't know what you took. So I'm interested to get your thoughts before I make my argument for the over as a little bit of an admitted homer on this one.
You know where I pegged the Marlins at this year?
What?
79 wins. I think they go over. I think Colby's full of shit. He has no idea what he's talking about.
You got it. There you go. That's
no, I love Colby and he definitely knows what he's talking about, but I think he's wrong here. I think that the Marlins starting pitching wins championships and they got it. And they got it in droves. You aren't the biggest believer in Jesus Sanchez. You're not a doubter. I don't think you're like the biggest believer that he's due for this crazy jump. I like him still. I still think he's a good player. And I think you look around the diamond and there's not a lot of weaknesses there, right? There's no gaping holes like the Brinsons or the Magneuris Sierras or the Jorge Alfaros, like negative B-WAR holes in lineups. There aren't those guys anymore. Brian Anderson is a guy who looks healthy. Miguel Rojas is always solid. Jazz Chisholm, I don't think he's going to take a step up into star, but I think he'll take a step into emerging star. Like a guy in 2023, everyone's like, all right, this is the year he becomes the all-star. You still have Jesus Aguilar, who just continues to hit. And then you look around the outfield, there's the funny thing that they can't get a center fielder. But like, let's see what Jesus Sanchez can do out there because at least his bat's going to be fine.
Yeah, he's going to hit home runs.
So they added Jacob Stallings, who's going to do wonders for the pitching staff. You go from the worst catcher to one of the best defensive catchers. This team also has now money to spend. Jorge Soler and Avisail Garcia don't shock anybody, but they certainly make them better.
It's better than Magneuris Sierra. Like that's the point.
This team should win more than 76.5 games. And I think they will.
I'm glad you said it and not me, because those are all points I agree with. And again, I know people will be like, oh, well, they had Marte last year and they had Duvall last year. No, not really. Marte played 64 games. Duvall played 91 games. This was a team that these are the guys, Peter, that had more than 100 plate appearances for the Marlins last year. Alex Jackson,
I love doing this game.
Lewin Diaz, Joe Panic, Brian De La Cruz was good. Sandy Leone had 220 plate appearances. Magneuris Sierra had 225 plate appearances. John Birdie, 271. Isan Diaz, 278. And Lewis Brinson, 290.
Do you know what you just did? You named some of the worst players in the history of the sport.
No, like actually, I put it to, I searched it. The 3 of those guys are the worst players in Marlins history with a minimum of 300 plate appearances.
We're not exaggerating when I say some of the worst players in the history of the sport, like negative WAR guys who never did anything.
No. And now you're replacing that with Avi Garcia. Soler, we saw what he did in the second half. He's been great in the spring. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit.
Whatever he does will be better than what you've had. That's the thing. Everything points to being better. You get another year of Trevor Rogers past his rookie year, a healthy Pablo Lopez, Eliezer Hernandez. You got Max Meyer coming up the cut. Jesus Luzardo, you now have a full year where he looks good. And Edward Cabrera could be that guy. There is too much that would have to go so wrong for the Marlins to start losing. Like, I think they're a lot closer to the Phillies than a lot of people think.
And we didn't even mention Joey Wendell, who was an all-star last year and has been a machine this spring in terms of hitting.
He's going to plug in well, but I don't think we should expect any sort of all-star.
No, of course not. But again, like those were Joe Panic ABs.
Exactly.
Now Joey went like that's the difference between Joe Panic -2 F4 and Wendell, if it's a 3 F4, is a 5-win player. And that is all-star. So because of the negative that they're replacing, it's a huge boost. Not to spend too much time on the Marlins, but the one thing I wanted to hit home on the final point, they did go out and get Cole Sulser from the Orioles. I think that really at least gives them a couple more wins because this was a team that could not close games out last year. They also got Tanner Scott, who was a big swing and miss lefty. So I think that helps. But also we talked about the Phillies. What do you do if your ace gets hurt or if your number 2 starter gets hurt? If the Marlins have one of their arms go down, they've got 3 other top prospects that are big league ready that could plug in right away and some other guys that are pretty solid as well.
Think about one of the most durable aces in our league, Sandy Alcantara. That dude is built out of stone.
Yep.
He's going to throw you 200 innings, no doubt. He might be the only player to do it next year while averaging the highest velocity on his fastball out of anybody in the sport. He is a horse. Per inning, on a per inning basis, you may go Trevor Rogers. But 200 innings of a 3.4 ERA, 200 strikeouts, just a dog. Like he's not getting hurt. If there's one player I know who's not getting hurt, Sandy Alcantara.
100%. And knock on wood, but I agree.
Knock on wood, of course.
Lineup better, bench better, rotation better, bullpen better.
Jeter gone.
Let Kim Ang cook. This team is better. So we take the over on 76.5.
I'm taking the over. I'm actually betting on it too.
I'm betting on it.
I think it's going to hit.
I like it. Let's go, Peter.
Let's go.
You're a Marlins fan this year.
I'm in.
We don't need to spend too much time on these guys because I think it's a pretty easy under. Washington Nationals. They got Nelson Cruz. They have a pretty terrible farm system still somehow. We talked about how Juan Soto is not going to get pitched to. I think they're going to trade any decent asset they have by midseason, by the deadline, which means it's going to be really ugly down the stretch. With how good this division is, I don't see them breaking 71.5 wins.
I don't, but I think it's going to be really close. Like, I don't think it's an A's under, right? They aren't good. And it's going to be a struggle to win 70 games. But I put them at 68 wins. So I would go under, and I'm fine going under. But I don't really want to bet on this one, weirdly. I don't.
Can I entice you?
Yes, of course.
Listen to this rotation. Patrick Corbin, Josiah Gray, Anibal Sanchez, Eric Fetty, who will pitch against the Marlins, and Joan Adon, who that's the guy Griffin took deep the other day. And then the lineup, Cesar Hernandez, Juan Soto, Nelson Cruz, Josh Bell, Keibert Ruiz, Lane Thomas, Alcides Escobar, Maikel Franco is projected to start at third base, your boy, and then Victor Robles.
How can I take an under on a team with Maikel Franco, aka the next great third baseman?
I agree. And Eric Fetty is a guaranteed win every time they face the Marlins. I think this team is going to be absolutely atrocious.
I agree. They're not going to be any good because their bullpen sucks too. I just don't want to put the same sort of like, yes, spend all your money on the A's under like we did the Nationals. That's my only thing. I still go under. I still go under.
We go under. All right.
Go under.
On to the Central. Picking up the pace a little bit here. Milwaukee Brewers 89.5. I'll just leave this to you because I'm sure you spent a lot of time talking about them and thinking about them.
The Milwaukee Brewers are one of my best bets to go over 89.5 wins. I wrote an article on justbaseball.com detailing my 5 best bets, and the Brewers made it. This is not a team that is 6 games worse than last year. I could argue that on paper, they are a better roster than they were last year. Mm-hmm. Losing Avisail Garcia sucks. Losing Eduardo Escobar sucks. And their offense is a little bit worse, but we are expecting a bounce back from Christian Yelich. The rotation is otherworldly phenomenal. You have Corbin Burns, best pitcher in baseball, or at least one of them. Brandon Woodruff, top 10 pitcher. Freddie Peralta, top 15 pitcher. Eric Lauer, Adrian Hauser, Aaron Ashby is going to be awesome. They have the best reliever in baseball in Josh Hader. They have one of the best relievers in Devin Williams. And then they have a great bullpen to just follow those guys in suit. They added Andrew McCutchen, who's going to be a good player for them. They've added enough on offense with Hunter Renfroe that they're not going to be anemic. They won 95 games last year in, I think, the worst division. And I only think it got a little bit worse, if not, it definitely didn't get better. It stayed the same or got worse. 89.5 is far too low. I had them pegged at 94 wins. For example, like that's a great one to talk about the Braves. Remember, I see the Braves not winning as many regular season games as the Brewers, but I think the Braves are a better team than the Brewers. But I had the Brewers still nabbed at 94 wins next year.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. You have a 3-headed monster at the top that's going to give you a chance to win 60% of the time. Like you have an advantage, I would say almost. And then Hauser, Lauer, and some of the other guys we're talking about just are really still solid, and Ashby as well. I like the addition of Hunter Renfroe. I think he helps them. And you know who's had a good spring? Pride of the West Coast, pride of California, Keston Hiura. Was it UC Davis?
No, Keston Hiura was UC Irvine. So UC the reason Irvine. I know the reason I have known Keston Hiura for a very long time, he took my friend Dustin Devener, we've talked about on the podcast before, took him deep center field twice in high school. When we watched that bat sounded different. Then he went to UCI and he raked. Then he got picked up, and he was really good initially. And his mom was diagnosed with cancer last year, and last I checked, she's doing well. I really hope I'm not wrong on that, but last I checked, it looked like things were getting better. I think that took a chunk out of him last year. Of
course, baseball suddenly doesn't matter at all.
At all. So
who gives a shit at that point? That is a good point. Like, and again, you never know what guys are going through off the field. And you know what, Pete? He's had a great spring. He's hitting 400 with 4 pumps in 30 plate appearances. So most importantly, off the field, hope Keston Hiura's mother is getting better and everything's going well there. But it seems like he's doing well on the field. That's a big boost at first base. That is a big boost to platoon with Rowdy Tellez. You could put Hiura in more specific situations. He's still just 25.
And the good thing is I just looked it up. Like, she is in remission. So it's amazing.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's go. Congratulations to Miss Hiura for being in remission, the Hiura family. That is awesome. So how about what better way to celebrate than 30 pumps this year, Keston Hiura? Let's do it. So we like the over.
We like the over. We love the over. I'm betting on it.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, and they don't even need him to be productive. And if he is, that's a huge bonus. This division's win totals, dude, are super low because the next highest, St. Louis Cardinals at 84.5. The pitching terrifies me. Absolutely terrifies me. But I mean, this lineup is so good, and they can defend the hell out of the baseball. How do you feel about St. Louis at 84.5?
I have them at 83 wins.
Oh, you said you weren't doing it again.
Well, that I would go with under, like 84.5. It's not like I have 84, right? Like, or 85, like right on it. Like, I'm 83. So they would have to win 85 games for that to go over. Like, I think it's going to be close. Another one that I'm not betting on. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals are better than they are, but I'm terrified of the pitching. You have a 40-year-old Wainwright. Like, he could just be Adam Wainwright again and shock the world and defy Mother Nature again. And, be Tom Brady. Maybe he will be, but
or he could have a midlife crisis out there.
But science and just common being a human,
Yeah.
would expect some regression. I'm not, but that's like a horrible thing to say to Cardinals fans. It's like, I don't think a 40-year-old Adam Wainwright is going to be elite again. I'm sorry.
No.
I think he's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be amazing like he was last year. Jack Flaherty, I freaking love the dude. We faced him again. Another guy we faced in high school, faced him at Harvard Westlake, thought he was the greatest athlete I've ever seen on a baseball field before. He's playing shortstop, pitcher, unbelievable, raking, like everything you'd want from a baseball player. He's fast too. Jack Flaherty had it. And then he came up and he becomes an ace for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
But again, injury concern.
Not available.
And then you have a guy like Steven Matz. His whole career has been injury concerns. Miles Michaelis. What do you think the designation is there?
He's
hurt. Dakota Hudson, not a lot of experience. People, the whole rotation has the injury bug, except Adam Wainwright.
Yeah, the only guy that doesn't have the injury bug is a grandfather. Like it's just nuts. And Alex Reyes dealing with
Look at the bullpen and tell me you're confident in all of those arms, because I like them, but there are questions throughout the bullpen too.
Jordan Hicks injuries. I like it. There's a lot of concern here. I don't think the pitching holds up very well. They could go make a trade. And honestly, Matthew Liberatore, I don't love what I've seen from him this spring. And that could be a guy that could really help them. I still think he can help them, but it's not like he's going to step in here and be lights out either. I think he's going to be like Reed Detmers last year, which is struggle, and not really be that great.
And how do you like Nolan Gorman?
He's not helping them this year. I think Gorman long-term can figure it out, but he's not helping them this year.
Because the word is that he's totally ready. Like you go to Cardinals Twitter and it's like he should be the starting pitcher. That's how good he is.
He should play. He should Ohtani then.
Yeah, he should Ohtani. Like Edmundo Sosa and Paul DeJong, we saw what Paul DeJong did last year. Will he bounce back? Maybe. And will Edmundo Sosa take a step up? Maybe. We know that Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado are going to rake. But then again, they're also another year older. Like Goldschmidt's going at age 34, Arenado 31. Like Tyler O'Neill we love, but like is Tommy Edman going to take that next step up as a hitter? Is Harrison Bader going to take a next step up as a hitter? I don't know. The numbers wouldn't exactly point to, oh yeah, of course they will. So I lean under, even though it sounds blasphemous, because it's the St. Louis Cardinals, the second best baseball team of all time next to the Yankees. If we're talking just historically, like the St. Louis Cardinals are second in championships. They're the St. Louis Cardinals. Like they are the team.
They're a winning franchise, and that's why they won't be bad. And the lineup and the defense will allow them to be good. Dude, I saw Yachty on the backfields. I mean, maybe he's still just getting back into it, but he looked 40 years old.
And won 17 games in a row and were 500 at that point.
Yeah. And Andrew Nizer, is that how you say it? Nizer? Is their backup catcher?
I don't know who that is.
-1 F4 last year. So if Yachty goes down, they have Ivan Herrera. I don't think he's ready. There's a lot to sort out there. I like the under on the Cardinals.
I convinced you, didn't I? Because I think you were like, of course we have to go over.
I think it's low, but
for
like
a reason.
I'm very open to the idea of them struggling mightily.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were 81-81 next year.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Are they going to buy at the deadline? Like, let's say they're sort of close. Are they going to make the big trade? And
Katie Wu says no. Katie Wu says no of The Athletic, when she came on here. So I don't know. What about the Cubs? 75.5.
I think I'm just more down on the Cubs still. Because I had them at 72 wins. And when I wrote down 72, I was like, that's disrespectful. Their over-under is going to be way higher, and this is going to be my idiot pick. And then I said 75.5?
75.5.
And I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe it's just they're not as good, right? They're a couple of years away. It's not like the Cubs are like this bad franchise and have no shot. They have plenty of shot in 2024, 2023. I don't think this is the year. I still think a lot of their emerging guys like a Brennan Davis is not fully there yet. I don't believe that Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom, what they put together is like what we're going to see moving forward. Rafael Ortega, like Nico Horner, like Nick Madrigal.
Ian Happ.
Like these are not Jason Hayward.
Did you see Kyle Hendricks? By the way,
Hendricks, yeah, like
highly recommend this account on Twitter. It's called barrel alert. And anytime a ball is barreled, it'll be like, this guy barreled a baseball, this velo, this was the outcome off of this guy. Kyle Hendricks took up my whole feed. Dude gave up like 9 barrels in 2 innings. And he's a barrel alert regular at this point. He's like your number 2. Justin Steele hasn't looked great. Obviously, Stroman's going to be good. We've talked about this. I mean, you need Drew Smyly to be healthy and be a dude for you, like badly. That might be your 3 because Alec Mills stinks. You're hoping Adbert Alzolay will come back and be okay. And Wade Miley now is gone down with elbow inflammation, and we weren't really excited about him. So
I was excited to watch like Wade Miley carve during a Wrigley Day game. I really was. Like, I just felt like that would be
maybe he'll still do that. But like you're one of your best players is Seiya Suzuki, who's going to go through some rookie pains. I mean, it's got to happen. He's going to have some ups and downs.
Still going to have a good season, we think, but there will be some points where he's not leading the lineup into the promised land.
I think this team's real. Like we talked about this in the past when we went through offseason grades. What's their strength? They don't have one. I don't see them winning 76 games. I just don't see it happening.
Me neither.
Cool. So we're going under. Cincinnati Reds. They've made a lot of trades, which cut costs and sent out some productive players. Understandably so. Reds fans aren't happy. That includes Jesse Winker heading out, Eugenio Suarez, who I don't think fans lost sleep over. But there's quite a few dudes. Tucker Barnhart went out of town. Then they also decided to trade Sonny Gray. I still think this team wins more than 74 games, Peter.
I'm on the same boat as you.
Bang.
When you have Luis Castillo, you have Tyler Mahle, they still have guys. And what you're also going to get this year is Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green.
Yep. And I think
could they at the deadline be like weirdly strategic buyers? Like that's how I feel like the Reds could weirdly get fans back in the mojo. Like get a bullpen piece at the trade deadline or like get a bat because the pitching will be there. I really do think that it will be there.
Yeah.
Like I think the Reds finish above the Cubs. And I want to say that quietly because that's a really hot take. And I think they do.
And it's crazy, like, because to me, I don't even think it's a hot take, but I understand that it would be perceived that way. I like the quiet additions they've made to the bullpen. I think addition by subtraction with Amir Garrett, who they like had to pitch in the meantime. I like the rotation. I think Hunter Green's going to struggle, but again, like this is a guy that's going to be like their 3 or 4. Donovan Solano,
he's going to struggle for Hunter Green expectations.
He'll be like a 4
5 ERA guy.
Yeah, he'll be a low 4s guy that gives up homers, but he'll have starts where he's K's 10. Yeah, and he could put it together in the second half. Jose Barrero, I really think puts it together this year. Donovan Solano was a huge addition. We signed him to the Reds in our GM episode. He crushes lefties. They needed that. Oh yeah, they have the reigning rookie of the year. I was to say defending as if you can like win it again. No one's ever won the rookie of the year 2 years in a row. They've never defended their title. Jonathan India, the reigning rookie of the year, who is going to be fantastic. Joey Votto, as we always say, still bangs. Tyler Stevenson's 25. I think we all think he's going to really put it together. Tommy Pham is a good addition. I think he's going to bounce back. This is still a solid team in what is a relatively weak division who can pitch. Jake Fraley also is not a slouch either to be added in there to make up for some of what they gave up.
He's going to single-handedly win games when he frames the ball. Like just remember that now.
When he robs a home run.
Reds fans, Jake Fraley will save a game this year.
With a robbed home run.
Give him a point of war from that game because he's going to do it.
So I'm in on the over.
I had them pegged at around 77 wins.
Okay. So we're both over on the Reds. Brandon Williamson will get up there and help them as well. I really think he will. And Lodolo could end up being like, if Lodolo out of the gate could be a top.
He could win
30.
the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he could be a top 30 starter in baseball. Now we're looking at a totally.
He could give you the same year Trevor Rogers gave the Marlins last year.
Easily. Health dependent. Absolutely. I think that's totally fair. And I actually think that that's what he could do for them. How about the Pirates at 65.5 wins? This is a rebuilding team, but some of those pieces are starting to come, get closer to the big leagues. Diego Castillo made the squad, which I love because Castillo was phenomenal last year, should give them some offense. Brian Hayes out with an ankle sprain, but is presumably healthy to be able to actually play this season. They added Dan Vogelback. Brian Reynolds is a star. They added Zach Thompson, which gives them some pitching depth. They did subtract Jacob Stallings, but they added Roberto Perez to offset that. I don't think this team's good. Obviously, it's not a good team, but I don't think it's a 100-loss bad team. And 65.5 wins, I think they could beat it.
You think there's 6 wins better than last year? Or 5, excuse me.
So this is one of those just this team can't be worse situations for me. 6 wins better, though. I think it's a fair question. Full season of Ke'Bryan, or close to it. O'Neal Cruz is a game changer to me, Pete. I think O'Neal Cruz is going to be a game. I know he's in AAA right now, but he's going to be up there relatively soon. I love the addition of Zach Thompson for them. I actually think that guy can pitch. They can't be worse rotationally with Quintana, Mitch Keller, Bryce Wilson, and JT Brubaker. Is that how you say it? Brubaker? I love that Diego Castillo made the team. This is a better team. It's more balanced. They still stink. Don't get me wrong. But when you came and visited me in Florida last year, and we were talking about the Pirates, we're like, do they win like 20 games this year? Like, this is one of the worst teams we've ever seen. This team is far and away better than that. So yes, I guess to answer your question, I think they're 6 games better. I really do. I'm
willing to take that. I mean, I'm not going to bet on the Pirates.
No, I'm not betting on the Pirates.
I think that's fine if they go over. I'm not. There was nothing pulling me away when I put my win total on the Pirates. I had them at 64. So I thought they were 3 games better than last year, and they could be 5-6 games better than last year. I think they'll be around this number though.
They just have more competitive dudes. Like even the flyer guys off the bench of like Michael Chavis. Like I'd rather see Michael Chavis out there than like who they were rolling out last year. Some of the guys are just, like legit, just like legit you and I. So I think they're better. I think they squeeze it out. I am not going to be rooting for the Pirates to win 67 games or 66 games. I'm not spending my time doing that. To the possibly best division out there, or arguably one of. I know how you feel about the Dodgers. We don't need to spend too much time on the Dodgers, but we could get your whole lowdown on this. And you got to do some bad things if the Dodgers don't win 97, 98 games.
After I talk about my Dodgers rant, let's just go straight to the Giants, because this is my best bet of the year. This is my best bet of the year. I've been on record. I will bleach my hair if the Dodgers don't win over 96.5 games. The line has now moved to 98.5, and I would still take it up to 100.5. This team won 106 games last year. Their lineup, as constructed right now, has the same WRC plus projected as what the New York Yankees did in 1927 with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. And I keep using that point on every single podcast because that point blows my freaking mind. It's the 1927 Yankees, the greatest team of all time. You look at the rotation, they got the 2-headed monster at the top, the bullpen with Kimbrel. This team is unfreaking believable. I have 2 units on the over 96.5. And then I bet it again. I put another unit on over 97.5. And if you said, Peter, take your bets away, would you bet 98.5? Like I said, I'd bet it up to 100.5. This team is my World Series pick. This team is the best team in baseball. And I am so far over 97.5, 98.5, 96.5, 99. I don't care. They're winning 100 games this year. And we have to go over, or we don't know what we're talking about. They're going over.
They've got so many dudes too, and they've got some dudes knocking on the door. To wrap up there, very excited on the prospect side. Ryan Pepiot, by the time people are listening to this, will have made his season debut for the AAA ball club. Hopefully it was good. Pepiot could end up being a lights out arm for them as well. And they've just got just a wealth of arms and a wealth of wealth. So it's just ridiculous. I'm with you. I would take them over just about any reasonable total. And that is a very reasonable total. San Diego. They're a polarizing team naturally. Fernando Tatis is out. They went out and got Sean Manaea. They've gone out and gotten some other guys. They went out and got Luke Voigt. We've talked about how they had a pretty darn good offseason. 90.5 wins, 91 wins. That's a lot of games. What are we thinking here?
You say 91 wins?
Yeah, I have them pegged at 90.5 here.
Doesn't that sound insane?
Yeah.
Like I wanted you, like, of course it's going under.
I thought I made a mistake or something.
No,
I
I'm just like, of course it's going under. Padres,
yeah,
you got to prove it. The Padres have to prove it.
yeah.
The Giants have proved it. The Padres have a litany of starting pitchers. And that's why they will be a good team regardless if they never hit, because they have starting pitching depth. And when you have starting pitching depth, you can win more regular season games than not. This team will be better than 500. I still believe they're going to finish third. The Padres will go under their total. This is my favorite under in the National League. The Padres going under. You lose Tatis for 3 months. He hit 42 home runs last year for your team.
Yeah.
This offense is not that good. I'm sorry. It's not that good. I have them pegged at 85 wins.
Yeah, it's where I have them too. I think 85, 86. I think they're a good team. They're going to make the playoffs, I think, through the expansion. I think they're going to weasel their way in there. I think they'll finish strong and hang in. But yeah, 91 wins is way too much. I think the rotation, people don't give the rotation enough love. I'll be honest. That rotation is now really freaking good.
It's amazing.
But yeah, too much to figure out there. Still a lot of dead weight with players too. With Will Myers and what are they going to do with Hosmer? What are they going to do with some of these guys? Is Trent Grisham going to bounce back? There's a lot of questions there. And not to mention the health of some of the guys in their rotation. We'll see how the bullpen looks. I think Mark Melancon, I think they're going to feel that one more than they think, even though they did make some good moves for their bullpen. I like the under. I'm with you.
Under.
This is one. I know how you feel and you know how I feel.
Yeah.
San Francisco Giants, 85.5 wins. I really am worried about all of the guys that they've lost and the age of their guys, and also Joey Bart starting at catcher. And we've talked about this. We don't need to spend too much time rehashing it. I can be persuaded to go over as a podcast just because that's a lot of losses to add after last year, right? This team is not that much worse. I think they're going to be worse than last year. But if we take a step back, forget about that for a second. Look at this team as constructed right now. That team can win 86 games.
And they'll probably win 90. Over.
Over.
Think about this. Do you think the Giants or the Padres end up with more wins this season? We're right up to the season. Like, this is it. You got to make the pick now. Because I'm Giants finish second for sure.
So my pick personally is the Padres, but not with this like burning conviction, right? Like I think the Padres rotation holds up, and I do think that the lineup is going to kind of put it together, and I think that they still have another move up their sleeve. But would I be surprised if the Giants overtook them? Of course not. I just don't know if the Giants have it in them. I'm a little bit worried. I do see the Giants potentially fading and being in the 82 to 84 range. I almost am sure that the Padres will win 86 games. I don't think they're going to win 91. I'm almost sure they're going to win 86. And I don't know if I feel that confident about San Francisco doing that, but I could take it because I know you guys really like them, and I know you really like them, and I don't hate them. So I could go over on the Giants.
And the reason we're kind of going shorter with this Giants segment is because we've had these debates. So I hope you go back and listen to some of our other podcast episodes, because we've had the Giants debate basically the entire offseason of what we think, because they are so tough to project. They won 107 games last year after a 2020 season, 2019 season of not much. Then they won 107 games and were unfreaking believable. They lost a half season and Chris Bryant. Of course, they lost Buster Posey. Like, losing Buster Posey, I'd take away 10 wins immediately. Like, 97 is the absolute max, because
fuck F-War, it's 10 wins.
It's like, a war player, especially last year too. And moving to Joey Bart, like, that, you're losing 10 wins there. Besides that, I think the rotation is just as good as last year. I think Rodon is going to give you very similar type production to Kevin Gausman if he stays healthy, like on a per inning basis. I think Alex Cobb was a phenomenal pickup. Alex Wood is again going to shove, and Desclafani is again going to shove, and Logan Webb could win the Cy Young. They have Camilo Doval. They have Jake McGee. They have Rogers. They have Dominic Leone. They have so many bullpen pieces. So they're going to win all the one-run games because of the defense. And then all they have to do is piece together a couple of runs here and there. Brandon Crawford is still going to rake. Brennan Belt is still going to rake. Darren Ruff is still going to hit in spots. Like, they have all the platoon bats. This is going to go over 85.5. I promise.
You made me feel better about it. definitely. And I think the bullpen really helps to shorten those games.
That's
and
the thing. Like
that
the
bullpen is so freaking good.
If not the Braves or the Rays, like they have the best bullpen. Like it's again, and then starting pitching, they are the Giants. They're the Rays of the NL, and they're going to win a bunch of games again.
And they have another arm that I think is going to jump into the bullpen pretty quickly, maybe at some point this season, and is so good that he might end up taking their bullpen to the next level. This guy, RJ Dabovich, is disgusting. He was drafted as a reliever, 4th round guy in 2020. And oh my gosh, Peter, like insane lights out swing and miss guy could end up helping them. Like they just spawn dudes like that. So yeah, I mean, I could easily see it happening. I know we talked about not being that passionate about bad teams overs, but this is my best bet, Peter.
Really?
This is my best freaking bet. Colorado Rockies over 68.5 wins. Colorado Rockies are winning 69 fucking ball games. And this team, like, I know it's a troll job. It's partially a troll job right now, but I'm not kidding. I'm taking the over. I'm betting it. And they're winning more than they won 74 games last year with their joke of a team. They added legitimate players to their ball club. And here's the thing. The Rockies will always be good at home. They went 48-33 at home last year with their joke of a team, 26-54 on the road. There's no way they're 26-54 on the road again this year. And I think they can hang around 15 games over 500 at home because it's like aliens playing against us on the moon or on Mars. Like it's just a different world and they have an advantage to it. It's their territory and they win. I love 68.5 wins. I love 69. I love it.
I love how you said that because guess what? They made my top 5 teams who were going to hit their over. Colorado Rockies at 68.5 wins. That is disrespectful. I can make fun of them all I want. We can make fun of Dick Monfort and whoever the fuck owns the Rockies. But this is a better team than 69 wins. This is a 75 win team. This could be a 76 win team. They are going to take wins away from those San Diego Padres. This is a much better team. You can read the article if you want to hear our full thoughts too, because we got to move on to the last place team because we still have more to talk about in this episode. Rockies over. I'm betting on it. Like 2 units, like Rockies.
I love it. And Brendan Rodgers, big
That's
year.
A broken line.
It is because they're like, oh, Story left and John Gray left. Brandon Rodgers is going to explode this year. Grichuk, great acquisition. Chris Bryant could be a star times
Win the MVP.
2. Yeah, literally. And then the rotation's still fine. So we're in on that one. Not in on the Diamondbacks winning 67. I don't like it at all. They lost 140 games last year. They're not that much better this year, if at all. What are your thoughts?
52 and 110 last year. Like, I know we said they lost 140 games. Like, they kind of did.
I was kind of close.
No, but I think it's important to quantify that. Like, they won 52 games last year in a 162 game season. They're 15 wins better. Nope. Under.
Yeah, they suck. And they didn't do much. Mark
Melanson
will be traded.
Ian Kennedy traded.
Yeah, I'm out on them. So we're pretty solid on that under. Before we go on to this last segment to talk a little bit about baseball cards, which it's right up my alley with our friends at Loop, which are your 2 best bets? I'm guessing because I speak fluent Peter Apple, Colorado Rockies and Dodgers are your 2 best bets.
And the Brewers are my other to go over.
But like your best bet, you got to pick 2. You got to pick 2 and that's it. Just out of curiosity.
Dodgers and Rockies, because I love the Brewers over. I really do. But that Rockies line is broken and the Dodgers are the greatest team ever. So if I had to cut one, it's the Brewers, but I still love the Brewers and I already bet on it. So I still really like the Brewers. But if you made me pick 2, Dodgers and Rockies.
Love it.
Which is a crazy sentence to say.
I'm totally. It actually is. Out of context,
people I love the Rockies.
Out of context, that statement alone, people would be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
So this last segment here, I'm really excited about this. So it's gonna be a little bit more like we were talking about transitions. Generally, it's gonna be a smooth transition into talking about baseball cards, but we're really excited to be working with Loop, and Loop, the app, is a really, really cool sports card breaking company where you're basically able to go onto the app and there's live feeds, live streams at all times of like different vendors that have a full inventory listed out. You buy it with Apple Pay and they rip the cards. Obviously, we're going to be focusing on baseball cards. They rip the cards and they send them to you. You make your account. They are able to get your info. Literally, you watch them in real time, open the cards, see what you get, and they ship them to you. So if you don't have a baseball card shop near you, or you don't have, access to go, or it's after hours. Like I was doing it during COVID. That's how I got introduced to Loop before even we were doing just baseball and we ever thought we'd partner with them. It was like 11 o'clock. I was bored. I'm like sitting there. I'm like, I'm going to go just spend some money on baseball cards. And I ripped open some packs and I pulled like a Mackenzie Gore, which ended up being bad and then good again, hopefully. And like stuff like that. So I'm really excited to talk about it. We're going to have like a segment. It's not just going to be straight ad read of like, check out Loop. We're going to be actually talking about what we pulled, what we're collecting, and encourage you to join us on some of the rips that we're doing and some of the cards that we're chasing. I've been collecting cards forever. I am trying to get you into it and you're starting to get into it. And I know now this is going to get you into it as well. I know you've got your Clark Schmidt PSA 9 somewhere, but is that Clark Schmidt? Oh yeah.
The greatest pitcher to ever don pinstripes, Clark Schmidt.
So I'm really excited about the stuff we're going to do with Loop this year. One of the really cool things is you can kind of just go and look and see, I'm specifically always, and we'll help you with this. You could always message me and ask me, what should I buy if I want this player or that player? And the fun of it is like you open the 2022 tops, which just came out. What's everybody hunting, Peter, in 2022 tops? What do you think? What rookie card is everybody? You're not even a card expert. What are they hunting?
I can imagine it's Bobby Wood Jr., Julio Rodriguez, or is it more 2022, like the draft?
The rookies. So these are just big league rookies from last year. Who's everybody hunting, you think?
Big league rookies from last year.
You're going to be pissed when I tell you.
Am I being an idiot? I mean, yes. Jonathan India, of course.
Here, I have my card next to me, actually. This guy, Wander Franco.
Oh, duh. I'm such an idiot.
So everybody's going after them super hard. And I didn't know how to approach it. I was like, okay, I could just go buy his cards, but I was like, I want to roll the dice because for example, and this is something that they really do a good job of like getting it out to everybody. So all of their vendors have the latest baseball releases. The prospect stuff's going to be out soon too. And that's what I'll be really nerding out about. But 2022 tops, I'm going to give you 5 names because we're going to buy a spot in a break. We're going to rip open some packs and I want to see if you're going to end up pulling something better than me because it never fails. Like that's what's going to happen.
Wait, Aram, before we just move on to that, is Loop, because from what it felt like to me, it was like your neighborhood card shop meets Twitch in a way. Type of video. Yes. Like you can hop on and find any stream that you want, any card break, a bunch of different types of boxes, like different creators are all doing it. But then it's like the physical box break where they're sending it straight to you. And it's super easy that like, it's just like going to your local card shop and picking out the cards that you want.
Did they tell you that?
No, when I went on, I was like, this is how it feels like to me. It feels awesome.
We talked to Loop today and you Twitch today and you just made that galaxy brain.
Literally. I mean, I was on Loop, I was on Twitch today. I'm like, it's Twitch with your local card shop. It's perfect.
That's exactly what it is. Like there's an active chat and like they do giveaways in there and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that is a really, really good. We might have to charge them for that. But hey, we just got you your new slogan. But no, that is a good way of describing it. So the 2022 set is like what we're going to be ripping, and we're going to live stream some of it too and invite people to come in, and we'll have some more details on that soon. But I just wanted to wrap up with this Loop segment to kind of introduce what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be talking about what we're collecting, similar to the way we've been doing it with some of the TikToks that I'm investing in. But this is also now like, this is what I'm chasing. This is what we're ripping. And this is what we pulled. And they have some crazy autographs in this 2022 set that I know Loop really does a good job of getting the product to all of their sellers. For this past rookie class in 2021, it's the 2022 set, but it's all the rookies from 2021. Outside of Wander Franco, I'm just curious, who would you prefer to have? And I'm going to give you 3 names here. Alex Kirilloff, Gibrian Hayes, or Jared Kelenic, or Josh Lowe. Those 4 names.
That is hard.
Because I love doing this because you don't know the price. Everybody else would let the price sway them. Sometimes the price doesn't actually reflect, I think, who's the most valuable. So these guys all have 1987 Topps baseball autographed cards in the set. Like it's the style, 1987 style. They all have autographs in there. Who would you rather have out of that group?
Here's my thinking. Who has the highest floor? I think that's Brian Hayes, because regardless of if he hits or not, he is going to be an elite defensive third baseman. Jared Kelenich's bat has to work because he's not a great defensive outfielder. Alex Kirilloff, same
has
thing.
To work.
You know, I would go Brian Hayes there.
I'm with you. I like Brian and Lowe, you know, it just, he hasn't even played at the This is the list. The last thing I'll get into here. This is the list of the base rookies in this set. Anthony Bender has a card. How much are you going to be going after Anthony Bender?
Not as much as others.
Who's others? I don't think anyone's going after Anthony Bender. Vidal Brujan for some reason's in there, which I think is really funny. But how about this? Last hypothetical for you. You could go Aaron Ashby. You could go Zach Pop, Brandon Marsh, or Reed Detmers.
Ooh. Eliminate Zach Pop for a second and say the last three. Like, come on.
Brandon Marsh.
Okay.
Aaron Ashby. Jaron Duran. Or Reed Detmers. I'll even throw in Gavin Sheets.
I'm throwing it right back at you, Gavin Sheets. Yeah, no, you can keep him. What I'm really deciding between, Brendan Marsh or Reed Detmers.
I'm so excited about both those guys.
Me too.
And both on the same
team.
There's
no wrong answer. I'm just going to take the bat because the bat is more likely to pan
they're more
out
valuable
when they're more valuable. And then when it's that close, I'll take the bat. But I love Reed Detmers too. Like, no wrong answer.
So you know why I did that hypothetical with you is I can't decide a lot of times like who I want to hunt. Like I'll hunt the prospects, but when it comes to the big league guys, I'm like, I kind of just want to roll the dice. Like you just buy the packs now on loop and then you'll just see what you pull and decide from there. You might get both.
A card collector. That's better for you, right?
Yeah. So, you know, like the cards I really want, I'm going to go buy those because it's like you're rolling the, but when I don't have a strong pull and I just want to have fun and just go through the players and get excited for the season, like this is the best way to do it. You just roll the dice and see what you pull. You might freaking pull an Ohtani auto. Like you never know, but that's the fun part about it. So we're going to be talking about the cards a little bit more. We're going to be talking about what we're doing on the Loop app, which I highly encourage you to download. And we're going to turn Peter into a card collector. That is the goal here with our friends at Loop. We're going to rip pretty soon and open some stuff. But to wrap up on the whole episode, any thoughts on the over-unders that, you know, maybe we were a little bit more unsure on? Like, do you have anything that you want to rehash to make sure we don't get yelled at?
The Cardinals one is going to be the most polarizing.
Yes,
because the Cardinals saying they're going under 84.5 is almost like a criminal thing to do for the history of baseball, if that makes sense. Like the Cardinals taking their under seems ridiculous. Yeah. But I wouldn't bet they're over. I still wouldn't. And you could bet they're over and maybe it'll hit. And I hope whoever's listening makes money. If it's a Cardinals fan listening saying, Peter's such an idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about. Cardinals are going way over. I'm interested to see how the bet goes. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. I'm interested to see how the bet goes. And I'm not going to bet on it because it's very polarizing of a pick. But I'll be more surprised if the Cardinals are closer to 90 wins than they are closer to 80 wins.
I'd be very happy to see Miles Michaelis, Daniel Hudson, and those guys throw well. And it's possible. I just wouldn't bet on it. I think that's kind of what it goes down to. But that'll do it for this episode. We have a lot going on for opening day. Did we give away
gambling advice merch? Look at that.
Yeah, you got the plugs. You and I are going to be on opening day at MLB's HQ.
MLB HQ,
humble
baby.
brag. very excited about that. Very grateful for MLB inviting us for that. That's going to be really cool. We'll have some TikToks and live stuff from there, whatever they let us do, which I think they're going to encourage a lot. So we're going to be doing a lot of things from there. But anything else we got to plug, Pete, as we wrap up?
Follow us on Twitter, people, at Just BB Media. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Just Baseball Fans. Get your Just Baseball merch. Link to the merch is in the episode description. I always mess that up. That's all I got. We're going to have more information about Chalkboard. We're going to be putting a lot of our deeper analysis in Chalkboard. It's an app similar to Discord, but more geared towards the sports market. It's going to be freaking awesome. It's almost going to be a deeper extension of justbaseball.com. We'll have more information about that as well. Basically, that's all we got. So I kind of want to say the magic words, Aram, unless you got anything to say.
And with that,
thank you, everybody.